Okay, hello everyone. So in a previous video, I was demonstrating how to do some data wrangling, how to handle data frames, create data frames using pandas, just using the pandas software library in Python. And we created a made-up data set with a few variables in it. Looked at how you could obtain specific variables or rows, so extract data for specific participants, or just ask for specific variables and save them as data frame objects. So we're going to continue with a few other things we can do. So, for example, if we have this existing data frame here, and it consists of four variables: age, name, an ID number, and a date of birth. And there's only 6 participants, data for 6 participants contained within it. Maybe we want to rename some of our columns, so we want to rename some of the variables, and it's a bit for this data frame it's not too much of an issue because the variables have specific and meaningful names that make sense, but often we will get data frames, we'll inherit data frames, and the variables will have quite bizarre names, or names that intuitively don't make much sense to us, or there'll be the names of things that there'll be like a variable which has 2 words as part of the name, and some programming languages don't cope with that very well. It's kind of best to have a variable name sort of just as 1 word, or if it's 2 words, join them with some sort of underscore like this. And it makes it easier as a string for a lot of programming languages to manipulate and do things with that. So the first way, there's a couple of ways to rename the columns of a data frame, so renaming the variables in the data frame. And the first is using the rename method in pandas. So what the original data frame we saved as an object called df, and what we're doing here is invoking the .rename method. And what I'm doing is, there's a couple of things here. You've got these, there's parentheses, and contained within the parentheses there's a couple of things going on. You've got these curly brackets here before the first comma, and they contain a couple of things. So they're both, all the items are within quotes, so they're strings, they're string variables in Python. And the first one here is the name of one of our columns, one of our variables, which is ID. And this one here, name, as well, is also the name of one of our variables. And we're going to rename them. And we're using, when you see something in Python with like curly braces like this, it's a dictionary. And dictionaries contain what are known as key value pairs. So they'll contain a key, which is this item, followed by a colon, and then a value associated with it. And what we're doing here is we're using a dictionary to take the ID variable and rename it as column 1. So we're changing the name of the ID variable to column 1, and then we're taking the name of the name variable, which contains the names of our participants, and we're going to rename that as column 2. For whatever reason we might be doing this, is just obviously an example. And we're doing that using a dictionary. So we've passed a dictionary to the rename method within pandas. Yeah. And we're specifying that this relates to the columns, so the names of the columns, and we're using this other, we've inputted this other argument, in place equals true. Okay, so if I print the data frame, if I do control and enter to run that command, what you can see now is we've got the same data frame. It's obviously, I've used the print function, so it's not a nice HTML pandas data frame, but we've changed the column names. So to do this, we've passed the dictionary saying, take this column, change it to this name, take this column, change it to this name. And you can see here that name has been changed to column 2 as we specified, and ID is renamed as column 1. Okay, so there might be various reasons for which we want to do something like that, but there's a quicker way to do it as well. Here's a second way to do it, is we can basically use this .columns method. So df.columns, and then we just pass it a list of the names we want the columns, and that would be in the order that they appear in the data frame. So here you can see here our data frame is currently got the column names age, column 2, column 1, date of birth. And if we pass the data frame using the columns method, we pass it a list with age, name, ID, date of birth. It should rename column 2 and column 1 as name and ID, which is what they are. So if I then print the data frame, what you will see is they have been changed back to their original variable names, name and ID. Okay, so a bit of a quicker method for renaming columns. If you're changing them all at once, you can just pass a list like this. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is look at how we might split a string column. Okay, so we've got a date of birth column variable here within our data frame. And you can see it's those items, the dates of birth are strings essentially, so they are string objects, and Python won't recognize them as dates, as numbers. It's just a string object as it presently is. And so we've got 25-09-76, 25th of September 1976. It's one date of birth, and we can use this a method called string.split. So we're basically saying take this string, and we're specifying the date of birth variable, and we're invoking the string split methods on it. So we're saying take this string and split it, and this first bit here where we've got two quotes and dash, that's telling pandas to split the string wherever there's a dash. Okay, and we're then saying expand equals true. So expand wherever you split it, expand it over different columns. Okay, and we've specified in the new data frame variable that we're asking for, or it's actually going to be 3 variables. We've specified that we want a new column with just the day, one with the month, one with the year. So what this function is doing is creating 3 new variables, 3 new columns, one that just contains the days of the month, one that contains the months of the year, and one that contains the years of birth of our participants. And to do that, we're taking our date of birth and we're splitting it using at the points where there's a dash separating day, month, year, and we're expanding it over 3 columns. So if I run that, call the data frame, what you can see now is we have these 3 new columns, day, month, year, and there you can see the dates of birth have been split over those 3 columns. Okay, so it can be quite useful if you have stuff that's saved as text and you need to find some way of separating it. You need to find something to use as a delimiter to separate on, to split on. It could be commas, it could be colons, it could be, in this case, we've got dash lines separating the dates. It could even be just blank spaces between words. Okay, so that's how we'd split a string column. So the opposite, we can go in the opposite direction. If we've got something split over 3 columns and we wanted to concatenate it into one, so a date of birth, we say we had our data recorded as day, month, year split over 3 columns, and we wanted to combine that together into one variable. We can concatenate string columns. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 3 day, month, year columns, and I'm going to combine them in a specific order to give us the participants' dates of birth, but in a modified version similar to how dates are specified in the US. So usually in the US it's month, day, year rather than day, month, year as we use in the UK. So we can create a new variable, we'll add it to our data frame. So we're saying add to the original data frame a new variable called modified US date, and that's going to consist of our month variable plus a space delimiter. So notice that's enclosed in quotes, plus the day variable plus another space delimiter, and then the year variable. And if we run that and call it, what you'll see now is we've used these three separate columns. We've combined them in a different order, month, day, year, and we've got everyone's date of birth in a different format. Maybe we'd need that for a particular type of analysis. We've now got everyone's date of birth as we record it in the UK, but also as it would be recorded in somewhere like the United States. Okay, so one final thing, and we'll stop this video. We can also filter using multiple criteria. So maybe we want to extract particular data. We want extract data for particular people, for particular participants, particular groups from our data set, and we can do that using pandas quite easily. And so the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to create a new data frame object. I'm going to call it data frame _ new 3, so it's a completely new object. And from our original data frame, we're going to ask for the age variable, and we're specifically asking for here every participant who's under 25 years of age. And to make it more granular, we're not just interested in this particular case in looking at which of our participants are under 25 years of age. So we're using the ampersand for and, logical and we're then going to ask for just those participants whose ID number is greater than or equal to 3. So this will return only the participants from our data set who are less than 25 and their ID number is greater than or equal to 3. And notice how each of the arguments that we've put in here, this are contained within parentheses. So this age less than 25 is contained within parentheses. ID greater than or equal to 3 is contained within parentheses. If I run that, what you can see is it's returned a df new 3 is a different object, data frame object, is a new object, and it only contains those participants whose dates of birth, whose age is less than 25 and whose ID number was greater than 3 or greater. Okay, I'll stop this video here. I'll come back and record another one shortly where we'll do a little bit more manipulation and wrangling of data.